Robert Jenrick was on the programme a little bit earlier. He called Rachel Reeves a liar. How would you describe her budget?
Well, I don't use that language, but what I would say is yesterday was a bad day for trust in British politics, because 30 times this year before the election, the Chancellor said she'd no plans to increase tax outside what was explicitly written in the Labour manifesto. And we had the biggest tax-raising budget in British history. And however much Labour tries to say that their tax rises won't hurt ordinary families, you know, what the watchdog, the OBR, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, they say this is going to mean lower pay, lower living standards, higher inflation, higher mortgages. And so it is a very, very sad day for ordinary families.
She said she had no choice.
Well, let's just look at this. I mean, I don't think anyone actually believes this 22 billion number that she has been peddling, but she didn't increase taxes by 22 billion. She increased them by 40 billion. This was not about her legacy. This was a choice. This was the budget that she wanted to do all along. And it's a legitimate choice. It's one I disagree with. But if she'd wanted to do that, she should have told us before the election. We could have had the debate. She actually told the studios, told people like you, that she thought taxes were too high. Many people heard that. Many people believed that. And they are now waking up feeling totally betrayed.
Crumbling public services.
Well, that is the central issue. You know, with an ageing population, with all the pressures of, you know, what Putin is doing in Ukraine, the need to defend the country, how do you fund our public services without really damaging rises in taxation that damage the economy? And, you know, we want to put more money into public services. I gave the NHS £6 billion in the budget this year, but we'd have done it differently. We'd have made difficult decisions on welfare reform, on public sector productivity. We wouldn't have given train drivers a £10,000 rise without asking for anything in return. But I think the biggest one is actually welfare reform. If you cut the number of people claiming benefit to 2019 levels, in other words, before the pandemic, that releases £34 billion a year. Now, the government's chosen to do nothing on that. And as a result, the adult working age benefit bill is going to be more than £100 billion by the end of this period. Those decisions are really difficult. I don't want to pretend they're easy at all. They are really difficult. But we would have taken that harder path because we know that the result of higher taxes is lower growth, and that is bad for ordinary families.
She would say, or that the government would say, that they are looking at welfare reform, and that is something that they're going to tackle during the course of this Parliament.
Well, you know, words are fine, but in the end, you've got to take action. What we know in terms of what they've done is that they shelved welfare reform from the King's speech. Liz Kendall said many times that she doesn't agree with welfare sanctions. So if you take away the stick, and you need lots of carrots, but you also need sticks, you aren't going to remake our welfare system. And at the moment, we are signing off 80,000 people a year and saying that not just that you don't have to work, but you don't even have to look for work. That's really bad for the economy because businesses need those people in order to expand. But it's also very bad for the individuals involved. And what I would say is this is not easy stuff. What I wanted to do was to see a budget yesterday where we took those difficult decisions, made those difficult choices. I'm afraid the Chancellor didn't do that.
Was there any part of the budget that you supported? Do you support the investment in the NHS?
Yes, I do. I think it's good to put more money into the NHS, but I would have funded it differently. I wouldn't have funded it through very damaging tax rises on business. I mean, the increase in employers' national insurance, the Office of Budget Responsibility say that will be the equivalent of 50,000 fewer jobs. That's a lot of, you know, Japanese car factories, 50,000 fewer jobs because of that £25 billion rise in employers' national insurance. So to say that it's not going to have any impact on working people when 50,000 fewer people are going to be in work, I'm afraid it is baloney. You
had the hump with the OBR earlier on in the week, and you took to the pen and wrote in the Times about it. Do you feel vindicated now you've seen what they've said?
Actually, you know, the OBR told me when I complained that they weren't going to criticise the actions of previous ministers, including myself. And they were right and I was wrong. The reality is that I shouldn't have believed Rachel Reeves when she briefed the Sunday Times that there was going to be big criticism of me. There wasn't. I think lots of other people think they shouldn't have believed Rachel Reeves when she told them that she wasn't going to put up taxes.
So is that a sorry for the OBR?
Well, I think the person who should say sorry is Rachel for telling the Sunday Times there was going to be this huge criticism of Jeremy Hunt, which made me say, well, look, if you're going to criticise me, tell me what you're going to say, give me a right of reply. And in reality, that criticism wasn't there. There was no vindication or legitimisation of this 22 billion fiction at all. On the contrary
it's okay
to what...
to say sorry if you're sorry.
Well, you know, as I say, I think the person who should say sorry is the person who made the misleading comments to the papers.
What about the money for the post office scandal and the infected blood scandal? Your government didn't fully compensate either group, and according to the chancellor, didn't allocate funds either for it.
Well, the big one of those is infected blood.
It is.
I think it's going to be £12 billion from memory. We
11.8, yeah.
We didn't know what that was going to be because the inquiry had not reported. But we did know how we were going to fund that. That is a huge sum of money, which we...
Had you allocated the funds?
Yeah, no, we had decided we're going to do exactly what Rachel Reeves has done. That is going to be added to the national debt because it's too big a sum of money to be absorbed in one go. And it will cost, I think we think it will cost about £700 million a year in additional interest payments. Yes, we knew that was coming and we planned for it.
Let's talk about fuel duty. It used to go up every year. I used to remember my father talking about it when I was younger. It's been frozen for some time now. It costs the Treasury a huge amount of money. And the watchdog has found that the cut isn't being fully passed on to consumers anyway. So why not increase it? Why do we keep freezing it?
Well, Rachel Reeves can tell you the reasons that she chose to carry on freezing, but I'll tell you why I did, which is because we were in a cost of living crisis and people were seeing the bills for their weekly shop go through the roof. We had 11% inflation caused mainly by the invasion of Ukraine. And so I thought it was just the wrong time for pump prices to go up as well. And, you know, I got criticised for carrying on with that freeze, but I felt it was the wrong thing to do.
What would you have done this time?
This time, I think, on balance, I would have wanted to continue in the way that Rachel Reeves did because I still think people are feeling the pinch and I think people would have found it very tough.
When you were sat there yesterday and listening to what was being said, there was a bit of to and fro with her and Rishi Sunak as well, some pointed comments by her. How did you feel?
I felt very worried for the country. I mean, look, let's cards on the table. Let's get this out of the way. We lost the election. We were thrashed. We lost that argument in July with the British people. But I felt angry for two reasons. First of all, we were told repeatedly in the election Labour was not going to put up taxes. And they went back on their word. And that is very bad for trust in politics when the ruling party so flagrantly goes against their manifesto commitments. But I also felt worried for the economy because when we left office, the International Monetary Fund said the British economy was going to grow faster than France, Germany, Italy, Japan. We've been through a very tough patch, but we could see that things were going to get better. The impact of this budget is going to be to reduce growth, reduce jobs, reduce living standards. And it just felt like a lot of the hard work that we'd done to get to that point was unfortunately going to be undone.
I'm sure some of my viewers this morning will be saying, that's rich coming from a Tory whose previous Prime Minister almost crashed the economy.
Well, I don't think the mini-budget was right, and I've said that many times. But I also think it's wrong to say that the pressures I faced when I became Chancellor 2 years ago were largely because of that. The real cause of the 11% inflation was Putin invading Ukraine, and that's why they had very high inflation in France and Germany and America and lots of other countries as well. The root cause also was the fact that we had to borrow £500 billion to pay for things like furlough in the pandemic. So those were the real causes, but the mini-budget didn't help, and you know what happened there was wrong, and that's why I reversed it.
Here's the question that I'm sure you're expecting. Are you going to stay on as Shadow Chancellor?
I'm not. I've told both the leadership contenders that I think having had that drubbing at the election, the Conservative Party needs to show new faces to the country. I mean, you know, politics is a tough game, but I recognise that's how it works. So I will step back from the Shadow Cabinet at least for a few years. And what that means, Kay, is that this is the last interview I will do with you as either Chancellor or Shadow Chancellor. So thanks for the memories.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't think you were going to say that. Will you miss it?
Will I miss my early morning jousts with you? Of course I will. Devastated not to have those. But yes, look, these are the most important decisions for the country because in the end, everything has to be paid for. If you want more money for the NHS or our armed forces, you want the economy to grow, you know, these are the big central issues. And so being right at the heart of those is a privilege. So, yes, I will miss it.
What are you going to do instead? I think I know the answer to this one, given that who I had lunch with the other day, but you tell us.
Hopefully I'll be a slightly better dad. That's top of the list. You know, I will be a very active backbencher. And I've got constituents who need representing in Parliament. I'll be doing my best for the people who got me an ash.
So you're going to stay in Parliament?
Absolutely.
You fought very hard to keep that seat.
I fought to keep the seat. I'm not going to let go.
OK, it's great to see you. Thank you very much
indeed. Thanks so much, Kate.
Thank you.